The village of Ijeoma was a place where tradition held strong, and the bonds between its people were sacred. Nestled in the heart of a vast forest, Ijeoma was known for its lush greenery, flowing rivers, and the unity among its villagers. The village elders often spoke of the ancient customs that had protected their land for generations, and the importance of keeping promises made in the presence of the gods. Life in Ijeoma moved at a steady, predictable pace, with the villagers deeply connected to the land and to each other. Ijeoma was more than just a village, it was a community built on trust, loyalty, and respect. The elders were revered as the keepers of wisdom, and their words were law. The village was a vibrant place, with the sounds of children playing in the fields, women pounding yams in the open courtyards, and men working in the forest or tending to the farms. Every evening, the villagers would gather around the central fire to share stories, laugh, and sometimes settle disputes. The village's rituals and customs were held in high regard, and any promise made under oath was considered unbreakable, especially those sealed with blood, a sacred covenant. Among the young men of Ijeoma, 3 were inseparable: Obinna, Chike, and Ifeanyi. They had grown up together, sharing everything from childhood pranks to their deepest secrets. As they entered adulthood, they decided to solidify their bond in the most sacred way they knew, by making a blood covenant. Under the ancient oak tree that stood at the edge of the village, the 3 friends swore an oath of eternal brotherhood, pledging to protect each other's secrets, support one another through thick and thin, and never to betray the bond they shared. The ritual was simple but profound. Each of the young men pricked their finger, allowing a drop of blood to fall onto a single leaf. They then buried the leaf under the roots of the ancient oak, believing that the tree would protect their bond for all time. The blood covenant was more than just a promise, it was a binding agreement that tied their fates together. The elders had often warned of the dire consequences that would befall anyone who broke such a sacred pact, but the 3 friends were confident that their bond was unbreakable. Little did they know that the strength of their brotherhood would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. After the covenant, Obinna, Chike, and Ifeanyi felt an even deeper connection. They were more than just friends, they were brothers, bound by blood and oath. The bond gave them a sense of invincibility, as if nothing could come between them. They continued to share everything, their dreams, their fears, and even their love interests. However, with the passage of time, life began to change, and the complexities of adulthood started to weigh on them. Despite their pact, cracks began to form in their once unshakable bond. The bond between the 3 friends became a source of pride for them. They were known throughout the village as the 3 brothers, admired for their loyalty and camaraderie. But as they grew older, the pressures of life began to create subtle tensions. Obinna was the most ambitious of the 3, always dreaming of a life beyond the village. Chike, on the other hand, was content with the simple life, while Ifeanyi was torn between the 2, often acting as the peacemaker. These differences, once trivial, began to create a rift as each man's path diverged. The bond of blood was strong, but would it be enough to hold them together? Obinna's ambition led him to the city, where he found success and wealth beyond his wildest dreams. But success came with its own challenges. In the city, Obinna met Nneka, a beautiful and cunning woman who was drawn to his wealth and power. Nneka was unlike any woman Obinna had ever met. She was bold, confident, and unafraid to use her charms to get what she wanted. Despite knowing he was bound by his blood covenant, Obinna was tempted by Nneka's allure. The more time he spent with her, the more he began to question his loyalty to his friends and the life he had left behind. Nneka was a force of nature, and Obinna found himself helplessly drawn to her. She introduced him to a world of luxury and excess that he had never imagined. The parties, the connections, the influence, it was intoxicating. But with every step deeper into this world, Obinna felt himself drifting further from the values he had been raised with. He kept in touch with Chike and Ifeanyi, but his messages became less frequent, and his visits to the village grew more sporadic. The bond that had once been his pride now felt like a chain, holding him back from the life he thought he wanted. The first seeds of betrayal were sown in Obinna's heart, though he tried to push them aside, convincing himself that he could have it all: success, love, and loyalty to his brothers. As Obinna's relationship with Nneka deepened, he began to keep secrets from his friends. What started as small lies, excuses for missing a visit or failing to call, soon grew into something much more dangerous. Obinna entered into a secret affair with Nneka, despite the fact that she was already involved with a powerful businessman in the city. The thrill of the forbidden relationship consumed Obinna, and he convinced himself that it was harmless, that he could handle the situation without it affecting his life back home. But the more he indulged in this affair, the more tangled he became in a web of deceit that would ultimately have devastating consequences. Nneka's influence over Obinna was complete, and he found himself doing things he never would have considered before: bribing officials, making shady deals, and lying to his friends. The affair became an obsession, with Obinna spending more and more time in the city, distancing himself from Chike and Ifeanyi. He rationalized his actions by telling himself that he was protecting them from the truth, but deep down, he knew that he was betraying the covenant they had made. The guilt gnawed at him, but his desire for Nneka and the life she represented was too strong to resist. Each time he thought of breaking off the affair, Nneka would pull him back in with promises of power and wealth, playing on his ambitions and insecurities. Back in Ijeoma, Chike began to sense that something was wrong. Obinna's behavior had become increasingly erratic, and the once strong bond between them was now strained. Chike confided in Ifeanyi about his concerns, but Ifeanyi, ever the optimist, dismissed them as the natural drift of adulthood. However, Chike couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. He noticed the way Obinna avoided certain topics during their conversations and how his visits to the village had dwindled. Chike's instincts told him that Obinna was hiding something, but he had no idea how deep the betrayal ran. Determined to uncover the truth, Chike decided to visit the city himself to see what Obinna had gotten himself into. Chike's journey to the city was filled with apprehension. He had never been comfortable with city life, finding it too chaotic and fast-paced compared to the simple, grounded existence in Ijeoma. The sights, sounds, and smells of the city assaulted his senses as he made his way through the bustling streets, searching for his old friend. When he finally found Obinna, Chike was shocked by the changes he saw. The once humble and grounded man he had known was now a shadow of his former self, dressed in expensive clothes, surrounded by wealth, but Chike confronted Obinna in his lavish apartment, demanding to know the truth. Obinna, caught off guard by his friend's unexpected visit, tried to brush off Chike's concerns. But Chike was relentless, refusing to accept the vague excuses and half-truths that Obinna offered. As the confrontation escalated, Obinna finally admitted to the affair with Nneka and the lies he had been telling. Chike was horrified, not just by the betrayal itself, but by the way Obinna had so easily cast aside their blood covenant for a life of greed and lust. The argument between the two friends was intense and emotional. Chike reminded Obinna of their sacred bond, the blood covenant they had made under the ancient oak tree, and the promises they had sworn to uphold. But Obinna, now blinded by his desire for Nneka and the power she represented, dismissed Chike's concerns as naive. He claimed that the world had changed and that their village traditions no longer applied to the life he was building in the city. The betrayal cut Chike deeply, and he left the apartment in anger and despair, realizing that the brotherhood they had once cherished was crumbling before his eyes. Upon returning to the village, Chike shared what he had discovered with Ifeanyi. For the first time, Ifeanyi began to see the cracks in their friendship that Chike had been warning about. He realized that they had been blind to Obinna's growing distance and the changes in his character. The two friends were faced with a difficult decision: should they try to bring Obinna back to his senses, or should they confront the possibility that their brotherhood was irreparably broken? Ifeanyi's reaction was one of disbelief and sorrow. He had always been the peacemaker, the one who believed in the strength of their bond, but now he saw the truth that Chike had been trying to reveal. The betrayal was a harsh blow, not just to their friendship, but to the very foundation of their lives. Ifeanyi and Chike debated their next steps, weighing the consequences of confronting Obinna or letting him go. The decision weighed heavily on them, as they knew that whatever choice they made would change their lives forever. After much deliberation, Chike and Ifeanyi decided to confront Obinna one last time, this time in their home village of Ijeoma. They hoped that returning to the place where their bond was formed would remind Obinna of the promises he had made. But when Obinna arrived, it became clear that he had changed too much. The village, once a source of pride for him, now felt small and insignificant compared to the life he had built in the city. The confrontation in Ijeoma was tense, with emotions running high as the three friends faced the reality of how far they had drifted apart. Villagers, unaware of the turmoil between the three friends, welcomed Obinna back with open arms. But Obinna's cold demeanor and distant attitude were a stark contrast to the warmth of his homecoming. Chike and Ifeanyi tried to appeal to his sense of loyalty and the bond they had shared, but Obinna remained unmoved. The city had changed him, hardening his heart and clouding his judgment. The confrontation ended in bitterness, with Obinna rejecting their pleas and declaring that the blood covenant was a relic of the past, something that no longer held any power over him. The rejection of the blood covenant was not just a betrayal of friendship, but a violation of the sacred oath made before the gods. The elders had always warned that breaking a blood covenant would bring dire consequences, and now those warnings began to manifest. Strange and unsettling events started to occur in Obinna's life. His business deals began to fail, his relationship with Nneka soured, and he was plagued by nightmares of the ancient oak tree and the blood oath he had broken. The curse of betrayal was upon him, and there was no escaping its reach. Obinna's life began to unravel at an alarming pace. The wealth and success he had enjoyed in the city slipped through his fingers like sand. Nneka, once so enamored with his power, lost interest as his fortunes dwindled, leaving him alone and desperate. The nightmares were the worst part. Visions of the blood covenant haunted his sleep, with the oak tree's roots seeming to reach out and drag him back to Ijeoma. Obinna tried to rationalize the event as coincidence, but deep down, he knew that the gods were punishing him for his betrayal. The curse was relentless, stripping him of everything he had gained and leaving him with nothing but regret. Desperate and broken, Obinna returned to Ijeoma, seeking redemption and a way to lift the curse that had destroyed his life. He knew that his only hope was to return to the ancient oak tree where the blood covenant was made and beg for forgiveness from the gods and his friends. But when he arrived, he found that Chike and Ifeanyi were no longer the same. The betrayer had left deep scars, and while they were willing to hear him out, they made it clear that forgiveness would not come easily. Obinna's return to the oak tree was a somber and humbling experience. The once proud and confident man was now a shadow of his former self, his wealth gone and his spirit broken. He fell to his knees before the tree, pleading for the gods to lift the curse and for his friends to forgive him. Chike and Ifeanyi watched in silence, their faces hardened by the pain of betrayal. As Obinna pleaded for forgiveness under the ancient oak tree, the air grew thick with tension. The village elders, sensing that something profound was unfolding, gathered silently around the tree, their faces impassive yet curious. Chike and Ifeanyi, standing before Obinna, were torn between their loyalty to the blood covenant and the anger that still burned within them. The oak tree, with its sprawling roots and twisted branches, seemed to echo the gravity of the moment. This was more than a plea for forgiveness, it was a reckoning with the past, with the sacred bond they had sworn to uphold. Obinna's voice cracked as he recounted his sins, his betrayal, and the curse that had befallen him. He admitted that he had let greed, lust, and ambition cloud his judgment, leading him to forsake the most important relationships in his life. Chike and Ifeanyi listened, their hearts heavy with the weight of his words. They remembered the days when the three of them were inseparable, bound by their oath and their shared dreams. But now, standing before the very tree that had witnessed their blood covenant, they realized that those days were gone. The village elders, sensing the spiritual significance of the moment, began to chant an ancient hymn, invoking the gods to witness the plea for redemption. The village elders, who had watched over Ijeoma for generations, stepped forward to deliver their judgment. They reminded Obinna that a blood covenant was not just a promise between friends but a sacred bond that tied them to the spiritual realm. Breaking it had unleashed forces beyond their control, and the consequences were severe. However, the elders were also wise and compassionate, understanding that redemption was possible if Obinna was truly repentant. They proposed a ritual to cleanse his soul and lift the curse, but it would come at a great cost. The elders' judgment was both stern and merciful. They spoke of the ancient laws that governed the blood covenant, laws that were older than the village itself. Obinna's betrayal had not only broken the trust between him and his friends but had also angered the spirits that watched over Ijeoma. To atone, Obinna would have to undergo a ritual of purification, one that would test his resolve and his sincerity. The ritual would require him to offer a sacrifice, something of great personal value, to the gods. Only then could the curse be lifted, and the bond between him, Chike, and Ifeanyi restored. The village held its breath, waiting to see if Obinna would accept the terms. Obinna agreed to undergo the ritual, understanding that it was his last chance to make amends. The elders prepared the ritual with great care, gathering sacred herbs, lighting ceremonial fires, and chanting prayers that had been passed down through generations. The entire village gathered to witness the ritual, their hearts heavy with the weight of what was to come. Obinna was led to the oak tree, where he would offer his sacrifice, a prized possession that symbolized his former life. The ritual was intense and demanding, pushing Obinna to the brink, but he endured it with a determination fueled by his desire for redemption. The ritual began at dawn, with the first rays of sunlight filtering through the oak tree's branches. The elders, chanting in low, rhythmic tones, anointed Obinna with sacred oils and draped him in ceremonial robes. The villagers watched in silence, their faces lit by the flickering flames of the ceremonial fires. Obinna presented his sacrifice, a golden medallion that had once symbolized his success in the city but now represented the greed and ambition that had led him astray. As he placed the medallion at the foot of the oak tree, the ground beneath them seemed to tremble, as if the gods were acknowledging his offering. The ritual reached its climax as the elders called upon the spirits to lift the curse and restore balance to the village. The ritual was successful, and the curse that had plagued Obinna's life was lifted. However, the experience had left him changed. He was no longer the ambitious, self-centered man who had betrayed his friends. Instead, he was humbled and introspective, fully aware of the pain he had caused and the price he had paid for his actions. Chike and Ifeanyi, witnessing Obinna's transformation, found it in their hearts to forgive him, but their friendship would never be the same. The bond they had shared was irrevocably altered, and while they remained friends, there was a lingering sadness that would never fully dissipate. The village celebrated the lifting of the curse, but there was an undercurrent of melancholy that pervaded the festivities. Obinna, now a humbled man, spent his days reflecting on his mistakes and working to rebuild his life in the village. Chike and Ifeanyi, though relieved that the curse was lifted, could not ignore the changes in their relationship. The oak tree, once a symbol of their unbreakable bond, now stood as a reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of betrayal. The three friends continued their lives in Ijeoma, forever marked by the events that had unfolded, but with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the importance of loyalty and integrity. In the aftermath of the events, the elders of Ijeoma gathered the younger generation to share the lessons learned from Obinna's story. They spoke of the importance of honoring one's promises, the dangers of greed and ambition, and the sacred nature of a blood covenant. The story of Obinna, Chike, and Efoni became a cautionary tale, passed down through the generations as a reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the power of forgiveness. The elders, seated around the ancient oak tree, imparted their wisdom to the younger villagers. They recounted the story of the blood covenant and the trials that the three friends had faced, emphasizing the importance of loyalty, integrity, and the spiritual bonds that connected them to their ancestors and the gods. The younger villagers listened intently, absorbing the lessons and vowing to uphold the values that had been passed down to them. The story of Obinna, Chike, and Efoni became woven into the fabric of Idioma's culture, a reminder of the village's deep-rooted traditions and the timeless wisdom of its elders. As the years passed, the story of the blood covenant and the betrayal that followed became a part of Idioma's rich oral tradition. The oak tree, once a silent witness to the events that unfolded, now stood as a symbol of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the village's cultural heritage. Obinna, Chike, and Efoni lived out their days in Idioma, forever connected to the village's legacy through their story, which became a powerful reminder of the consequences of breaking sacred bonds. Though their lives had taken different paths, they were united by a shared understanding of the lessons learned from their ordeal. The villagers often visited the oak tree, offering prayers and making new covenants under its ancient branches, knowing that the spirits of the past were watching over them. Over time, Obinna became a respected figure in the village, his humility and wisdom a stark contrast to the man he once was. Chike and Efoni, too, found new purposes in their lives, dedicating themselves to the betterment of the community. The oak tree, now revered as a sacred site, drew visitors from neighboring villages, all seeking to learn from the story of the blood covenant. The elders ensured that the tale was told faithfully, each generation adding its own interpretation, but always maintaining the core message that loyalty and integrity were the foundations of a strong community, and that the bonds of friendship were to be cherished and protected at all costs. As Obinna grew older, he spent more time reflecting on his life and the choices he had made. He often sat under the oak tree, lost in thought, his heart at peace knowing that he had done everything he could to atone for his mistakes. The village regarded him with respect, not just for his wisdom, but for the way he had transformed his life after such a devastating betrayal. In his final days, Obinna called Chike and Efoni to his side, seeking to express his gratitude for their forgiveness and to share one last moment of brotherhood. Obinna's health began to decline, and the villagers knew that his time was near. Yet, even in his frailty, he remained a pillar of the community, his presence a constant reminder of the power of redemption. Chike and Efoni visited him often, their bond stronger than it had been in years. On his last day, Obinna was taken to the oak tree, where he had once betrayed the blood covenant. Surrounded by his friends and the village elders, he expressed his deep gratitude for the second chance he had been given. He spoke of the pain he had caused and the lessons he had learned, urging the younger generation to heed the warnings of their ancestors. As the sun set, Obinna took his final breath under the shade of the oak tree, his soul at peace. After Obinna's passing, the village of Idioma held a solemn ceremony to honor his memory and to celebrate the lessons he had left behind. The village elders, recognizing the significance of the blood covenant and the story that had unfolded, decided to establish a new tradition. Each year, under the oak tree, the young men and women of the village would gather to make their own covenants, promises of loyalty, integrity, and commitment to their community. This new tradition not only honored Obinna, Chike, and Efoni's bond but also ensured that future generations would carry forward the values that had been so deeply embedded in the village's culture. The first of these ceremonies was a grand event, attended by villagers from far and wide. The oak tree, now adorned with offerings and sacred symbols, stood as the central figure in the ceremony. The elders led the young villagers in a ritual of covenant-making, their voices echoing through the air as they swore oaths of friendship and loyalty. As each covenant was made, the village rejoiced, knowing that they were not just making promises to each other, but to the spirits of the past who watched over them. The tradition became an annual event, a day of unity and reflection, where the villagers came together to celebrate their shared heritage and to renew their commitment to the values that define their community. As the years turned into decades, the story of Obinna, Chike, and Ifeanyi became a cherished part of Idioma's history. The oak tree, now revered as a symbol of the village's resilience and the power of forgiveness, continued to play a central role in the lives of the villagers. The annual covenant ceremony grew in importance, attracting visitors from distant lands who came to witness the tradition and to learn from the village's rich cultural heritage. The legacy of the blood covenant lived on, a testament to the enduring power of friendship, the consequences of betrayal, and the possibility of redemption. The village of Ijeoma thrived, its people united by the shared values that had been passed down through the generations. The story of the blood covenant was told and retold, each telling adding a new layer of meaning and understanding. The oak tree, now centuries old, stood as a silent witness to the passage of time, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching towards the sky. The villagers knew that they were part of something greater than themselves, a legacy that connected them to their ancestors and to the future generations that would follow. The spirit of Obinna, Chike, and Ifeanyi lived on in the hearts of the people of Ijeoma, a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and adversity, the bonds of friendship and the power of forgiveness could overcome all. I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this story. Please kindly like the video, comment your thoughts and please subscribe for more enchanting tales. Thank you.